Today we're going to talk about addition of integers. First of all, let's talk about what an integer is. We have whole numbers, and for your school career so far, you used the numbers 0 on up to infinity. So all positive numbers. Integers, however, include the positive numbers and whole negative numbers. So when we're talking about integers, we're talking about +1 and -1, +2 and -2. One thing that we want to remember about negative numbers is that the subtraction sign and the negative sign mean the same thing. Okay? So for your secret question today, I want you to put on your first page of notes, below this little paragraph about zero pair, put your star, or you can do a circle or whatever you want to do, but I want you to write down that negative and subtraction signs mean the same. Now we'll be talking a lot more about this when we do our subtraction of integers. But I just want to get it in your mind that the negative sign and the subtraction sign mean the same thing. They both mean the opposite of. So when we have a +1 and we'll have the opposite of that be the -1. In other words, if I give you something, you have added 1 to your collection, a +1. Now if I take it away, you have subtracted 1. Okay? So taking away, subtracting, the opposite of giving you something is taking it away. The opposite of +1 is -1. Taking away, we know, is subtraction. But now we're also going to use that same symbol to mean negative. All right, so we can use positive and negative counters to model addition of integers. So we're going to add together positive and negative numbers. The yellow counters represent a +1, and the red counters represent a -1. So addition means we're going to combine two things together. We're going to get a total or a sum of something. We're combining two sets of things together. In our first little picture up here, we have 3 positive counters representing giving you 3 or +3. And on the other side, we have 3 negative counters, red, which represent taking away 3 or a -3. Okay? So we're going to use counters like these to figure out the answers to some addition of integer problems. For example, we have -2, and we're going to add to that -4. So if I have -2, let me put that on a, okay, I've got 2 negatives, and here they are right here. I'm going to add to that 4 negatives. My result is that I have 6 negative counters then. So -2 plus -4 is -6. Okay? That's pretty simple as far as addition of integers. However, we might have positives being added to negatives. So what we need to do, and I'm going to delete some of these out. Let's say we have a +1, and we also have a -1. Well, if I give you 1, a +1, and then I take away 1, which is a -1, I'm not going to have anything left, or you're not going to have anything left. If I give you 1 and then I take it away, you have nothing. So 1 positive and 1 negative make 0. Same thing with 2 positives and 2 negatives. If I give you 2 and then I take away 2, you have nothing left. That's 0. So this little representation right here, this is a negative 2, and I'm adding to it a positive 2, negative 2 plus 2. And when I do that, I'm going to get 0. When we combine a positive and a negative, or a negative and a positive, red and yellow, we call that a 0 pair. A positive and a negative together make 0. They're called a 0 pair. They cancel each other out. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can draw some counters to find the answers to some problems. Okay, if I have, in this problem, example 2, 8 positives, I'm going to make these infinite cloners. Okay, so if I have 8 positives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I have added to that 4 negatives. Oh, I'm sorry, look at this. 8 positives. That should be yellow. So let's delete these. All right, here's my 4 negatives. I got to have 8 positives with that. Yellow is positive. Bright, sunny yellow is positive. Okay, so I've got 8 positives now. Here's my 8 positives. Here's my 4 negatives. I need to combine these two groups. Well, we just talked about in the last part that if I combine a positive and a negative, I'm going to get 0. Okay, 1 positive and 1 negative makes 0. So what happens if I have 8 positives and 4 negatives? Well, these two will combine to make 0. And these two will combine and make 0. And these two will combine and make 0. And these two will combine and make 0. Now once all of those are gone, what I have left is 4 positives. So what I can do with my counters, right? These two will combine and make 0. And these two will make 0. And these two will make 0. And those two will make 0. Okay? All of those are going to go away. So let's delete those two and those two. All right. What's left are these 4 yellows, which represent positive 4. What I want you to do for this next example is I want you to draw 3 negative counters and 3 positive counters and tell me what the answer to that problem would be. Negative 3 plus 3. And when you're drawing your counters, if you don't have colored pencils or something, that's fine. Make a circle with a negative in it for the negatives and a circle with a plus in it for positives. Okay? I want you to draw those up and pair up your positives and negatives and see what your final answer would be. Now another way of using the number line to do your integers, to do your integers is to use a number line to add. You're always going to start at 0 when you're using a number line to add integers. Okay? So if I have 8 plus negative 4 on my number line, I'm going to start at 0. This is a positive 8. This is the positive direction. You see all positive numbers here. This is the negative direction. You see all negatives to the left of the 0. So I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to go in the positive direction 8 hops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to add to that, starting at 8, 4 negatives. Now I add 4 negatives by moving 4 times in a negative direction. So I'm at 8 right now, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 times in the negative direction. So I end up at a positive 4 for my answer. Same thing as we had when we did the counters up here in example 2. Okay, I would like you to go ahead and do the number line for example 5. Start at 0. The first number is a negative 3. I want you to draw 3 in the negative direction, and then I want you to do 3 in the positive direction after that to combine those together. And here's a list of the rules, the addition rules that you can use to help you add integers. You're going to do 2 positives. You're going to add the numbers together and make a positive answer. A positive and a negative, you're going to have to see what you have more of. Do you have more positives or do you have more negatives? If you have more positives, how many more positives do you have? And that's your answer. If you have more negatives, how many more negatives do you have? And that's your answer. So that's positive and negative combined. So for example, if I have 3 plus 5, that's 2 positive numbers, I'm going to get a positive 8. But if I have 3 and negative 5, I have more negatives than I have positives. And so my answer is going to be that I have 2 more negatives than I have positives. When I draw this out, I've got 3 positives here, and I've got 5 negatives over here. Okay? If I'm drawing it, I can draw it like this. Now, these 2 will cancel out. These 2 cancel out. A positive and a negative cancel each other out. And what I'm left with is these 2 negatives. So my answer is negative 2. Okay? Same way if I had a negative plus a positive. Example, if I had negative 5, or I'm sorry, negative 3 plus 5. Okay, now in this example, I would have 1, 2, 3 negatives and 5 positives. When you're drawing your counters out, this is how you're going to do it. Now, these 2 will cancel, these 2 will cancel, and these 2 will cancel. So now I have 2 positives left, so my answer is a positive 2. If I have 2 negative numbers, negative 3 and negative 5 plus negative 5, I'm going to have 3 negatives and 5 negatives. Now I don't have any positives to cancel any of these out. There are no positives in my problem whatsoever. I have all negatives. So I'm going to count up how many total negatives I have, and I have 8 negatives. So the answer is negative 8. All right, you've got a few problems to do on your own. I want you to finish this number line. On the previous page, I want you to do drawing counters for example 3. So you need to do example 3, example 5, and then you've got example 6, 7, 8, and 9 to do on your own. I would like you to use either the drawing counters or a number line to complete those problems. Okay, either draw counters like I've done here for each of these, or draw a number line and show me the hops on the number line in order to complete those problems. Okay, and I'll see you next class period.